We hear all the time that as believers, we're called to be the light in this dark world. But what does that really look like? When, like, someone disrespects you, they talk to you sideways, they betray you, or they say something that hits a nerve. Because that's usually when the urge to clap back shows up. And when I say clap back, as I'm referencing this word, I'm talking about that quick, sharp response. The comeback you already got rehearsed in your head because you're ready to get it out. The text you type so fast with a little extra edge because you're going to say what you got to say. That moment where you match energy, you raise your voice or say something cutting just to make sure they feel what you felt. It's the reaction meant to put someone in their place and prove, hey, you're not going to play with me. It's those real life moments when you're tested and someone sends a text that feels slick, family member makes a comment that they know is going to trigger you because they know your weak spot, right? Or a coworker speaks over you or someone questions your character and immediately you feel justified. You want the last word. You want to prove you're not going to talk to me any kind of way. And if we're honest, clapping back can feel powerful in that moment. But what we don't always consider is what it plants. The Bible tells us to be slow to speak. And why perhaps could that be? Because once words leave your mouth, they can't be taken back. Even if you apologize later, the seed has already been planted. And the enemy loves to use that moment, that one reaction, that one sentence as the starting place where you have offense, you have division and bitterness that begin to grow. And I've learned that offense often doesn't start with what was done or said to us, it starts with how we responded to it. Scripture also reminds us that we don't wrestle against flesh and blood. And so many times, the person that is saying and doing the things, they're not the real source. They're reacting out of their own pain, insecurity, stress, or maybe unhealed wounds. So when you clap back, you're not just responding to them, you're partnering with the same cycle. And you can usually tell when it's not really about you, when the reaction feels bigger than the moment, when it mirrors something that you've seen before, or when it touches an old wound that makes them to react in the way they're acting. That's where discernment is very important. Now, let me be real. Being a Christian does not mean you don't want to clap back. No, 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 no. Sometimes you absolutely do. You want to defend yourself. You want to be respected. You want to make it clear, hey, I'm not weak. And that's human desire. But here's the difference. Maturity, it pauses. Healing pauses. The spirit will check you before you respond. Think about a time when someone was patient with you, a moment when you didn't deserve grace, but they gave it to you anyway. When they could have embarrassed you, they could have exposed you or corrected you harshly, but they chose kindness. That grace, it probably did more to change you than any sharp response ever could. And that's what it means to walk in love. Love isn't passive. Love is restrained. Love is accountable. And the Bible tells us get rid of bitterness, get rid of rage, get rid of anger when we're responding and acting right in such manner. And not because God is denying our feelings, but because he's protecting our hearts. And forgiveness isn't saying what they said or did is okay. It's saying, hey, I refuse to let this shape who I become. And sometimes you do have to ask yourself, if I say this right now, how will it make them feel? Will it bring understanding or will it escalate? That's something to think about. Am I responding from a place that's familiar? And this is where accountability comes in. We are all going to give an account for the words we have spoken and the way we've treated others. And that alone should make us pause. Now, for some of us, the clap back feels natural. It just is what it is because we've seen it modeled our entire lives. We've watched someone close to us, someone we looked up to as a child, respond in that way, that every disagreement just turns sharp and bitter, right? Catty, catty, I'm going to have the last word, right? And every correction was just loud. So over time, you assume that that was strength. But what if healing a bloodline looks like being the first who responds differently? The first one who chooses self control over reaction. The first one who breaks the cycle instead of repeating it. God is light, and light doesn't react, it reveals. It brings clarity, it creates safety. Imagine what the world would look like if only we were more concerned with empathy than being right, more concerned with how our words land than with having the last word. Some of the fruits of the Spirit in the Bible, just to name a few, you got kindness, gentleness, self-control. Those aren't weak traits. They're powerful. And they win in any ways clapbacks ever do. And being the light doesn't mean you won't feel disrespected. It means you don't let disrespect dictate your response. And sometimes the strongest thing you can do is respond in a way that proves you're healed, not triggered. So before you clap back, I challenge you to pause and ask yourself, what am I planting right now? Because light doesn't fight darkness, it overcomes it by staying true to who it is. So if you're in a moment right now where you feel justified to respond, how about this? Where the words are right there on your tongue, right? You ready to let them have it? Pause. Not because you're weak, but because you're aware, and ask yourself, is this response coming from who I used to be or who God is healing me into? Because every time you choose restraint over reaction, you're not just protecting your peace, you're breaking a pattern. Light doesn't announce itself, it just shows up differently. And when you choose empathy over ego, grace over I'm going to get even, and love over having the last word, you're doing more than having a Christian response. You're reflecting the nature of God. And this is how cycles end. This is how bloodlines heal. This is how the world sees something different. And one day, when we stand before God, it won't be about how many times we prove we were right, but how often we chose to love when it was hard. And that is what it really means to be the light. Until next time, blessings.